When an organization has successfully integrated core attributes into the environment, into their culture, it becomes part of that organization's identity. Now, in that case, I like to call it DNA because it truly does become self-replicating. It only requires minimal effort to keep that going. And when you have the right attributes in any organization, it facilitates growth. But no matter how hard you've worked at it, no matter how well established those attributes are, there are certain critical events that will create a disconnect. We need to recognize those and recognize when we need to go back and re-emphasize those core attributes. I will make a bold statement that every successful organization, whether it's a business, ministry, whatever it is, that every successful organization has as part of its core identity certain attributes that have become so pervasive, they become what I call part of the DNA of the organization. They become self-replicating, which we'll look at in a moment. But they facilitate growth. They facilitate momentum. They may or may not contribute directly to growth and momentum, but they will facilitate it. Now, some organizations have absolutely strategized these attributes. Others happen by happenstance. Regardless, either way, what happens is there are certain key events that create a disconnect. And when that happens, we need to go back to square one and re-emphasize those attributes. Now, some of those attributes, for a business, it may be a company that doesn't just talk amazing customer service, but it is so pervasive, it is so much a core part of their identity that a new person coming into the group will quickly assimilate that core attribute. They will begin to display that attribute in their dealings. These things, again, they contribute to facilitate growth. And more importantly, they create a momentum. That amazing customer service then creates a reputation, which then builds a momentum that becomes self-propelling. For a ministry, when we get past maybe having an outflow of just a core identity of our leaders, a strong leader especially, but when we have built into part of our culture some attribute, service, generosity, whatever it may be, these core attributes, when we strategize and we make sure that we really have those as a key part, when it's truly pervasive in the organization, they also become self-replicating. New people will begin to emulate and display that characteristic. And more importantly, for a ministry, not only will you begin to see people begin to display that attribute, but the right attributes will also facilitate growth in other areas of maturity. In other words, it's almost like an open doorway that facilitates other growth. But the focus today is understanding that even if you have built a successful culture, it is a core part of the identity of your business, your ministry, whatever, there are certain critical events that create a disconnect. And when those happen, literally, it's like you've pulled the plug that's providing power to that attribute. One of them is when a key leader leaves. Even though you would think that those core attributes would continue to maintain momentum, real key leaders will create just enough uncertainty. They'll create a pause, so to speak. But more importantly, at the moment, for every organization, business, ministry, whatever, we have come out or coming out of, to varying degrees, an extended lockdown. We've been working remotely. What's happened is we have seen how we do business, how we do ministry, how we operate as an organization. We've seen it to a degree put on hold. And as we come back together, we need to recognize that we have got to go back and re-emphasize those core attributes. In fact, this is the opportunity to re-examine what are the core attributes that we do display, And are those the attributes we absolutely want? Now, let's say they are the ones have been displaying the attributes we want. This is the time to go back and absolutely reinforce those. It's not enough to just pick up where we left off, but literally take a couple of steps back and to reinforce, reintroduce those qualities. Make sure that they are reintegrated into our identity. But it's also the great opportunity to hit the reset button as the leaders in any organization and to recognize, hey, here's the things we did well, but these are the things we really want to get better at. And this is the opportunity to go back and say, we're going to take a step back. We're going to focus on these attributes, these processes, whatever we want to call them. We're going to make sure going forward that these aren't just things we talk about, but they are truly part of our identity. Recognizing that, I always say, never let a good crisis go to waste. Use this opportunity to take a look and say, what are the things that worked in the past, but they don't fit us anymore? What are the things we absolutely are doing well, we want to keep? And so if so, we need to reinforce those. But use this opportunity to recognize there's a disconnect from how we did everything prior to this, to a degree. This is the opportunity to take a look and say, what are the attributes, core attributes we want as an identity, as part of our organization? And this is the time to establish those, transform what we're doing, and hit a whole new level of momentum.